Hey everybody, welcome to episode 9 of the Combat Chain podcast. I am your host, Adam Philipchuk, alongside Pat Shaw. And how's it going today, Pat?
Adam, it is good to be here on this third attempt at episode 9. I can't wait to successfully complete this one. And I am enthused and ready to go.
Yeah, this is take 3 of episode 9, our third attempt at actually getting this thing out.
There's been a little gap in content, but it's not for a lack of trying. That is for sure. We teamed up with As of Go Again Gaming to do a 4-hour Everfest set review, every single card. And we teamed up with Russ, aka Tap from the Brew Tap Cast podcast, Tommy Fresh of the Fresh and Buds podcast, and the indomitably handsome Matt Flake of the Instant Speed podcast. He really is just a sight for sore eyes. But the 6 of us got together and slogged through every single card. And that video is up on Az's YouTube channel, so by all means, take a look, like and subscribe to his channel to see all his videos and our wonderful faces in that video. It was 4 hours is a long time, but we had done one, right? We were halfway through our review, maybe less than halfway, and that pod was like 2+ there, where we were just like, oh man, this is going to be a long time. So we had that part 1 in the can. And then this opportunity came after we recorded, right? So we wanted to jump on that. It's a great opportunity for us to meet these guys that we've been interacting with on Twitter and Discord previously. So to be able to collaborate with them was a big opportunity for us. So we jumped on that and we said, we'll make this our set review. And it looks like moving forward, we may have some sort of collaboration in the future with future sets. So that's something definitely to look forward to. But Adam, speaking of spicy things on YouTube, I don't want to give away too much details here, but we at the Command Chain podcast have something spicy in the works for the folks on YouTube, don't we?
Yeah, we are going to be doing our first gameplay video.
Yes.
I don't know how much am I allowed to say?
I think that's it. That's all I want to give. I gave a little taste on Twitter with a picture, and I think that's all we want to give. We'll leave a lot of questions and really entice them, really reel them in with the mystery, because that picture, speaks 1,000 words, and I think we're going to do something pretty unique and special. I certainly haven't seen it on YouTube before, so we are completing the post-production of it right now, and it should be up in the next couple days.
Yeah, and I think I'll just finish off with it's without giving anything away. This is this deck, this matchup, this format is very near and dear to my heart. It is such a fun format to play. So the fact that we're starting off our gameplay videos with one that I appreciate as much as I do, and I think is as integral to the backbone of Flesh and Blood. Excited to share it with everyone.
And of course, we want you to like and subscribe at the Combat Chain YouTube channel. If you just search the Combat Chain, you'll be able to see us there. And as part of our push onto YouTube, we do have our 100 subscriber giveaway. We're at 100 subscribers. We'll be giving away some Gamegenic deck boxes. We got some BCW Elite Guard deck sleeves, and the coup de grace, Adam, is
A cold foil data doll. Ooh.
Cold foil. That's a spicy one right there. So, at 100 subscribers, we will randomly select. If we expand the gift selection, we'll basically everyone gets randomly selected, and however many gifts we have, one goes to each person. So right now we're at 4, so 4 lucky people will be getting some random stuff, and this is coming from our stash, and this is our skin in the game. This is from our collections out to you, because we want you to watch us. We want you to listen to us, and we're looking for those numbers. So like, subscribe, put your bell notifications on. Let's do this.
Pat, how was your week in Fab?
Well, this is the longest week ever, isn't it? So last time we did a week in Fab was sometime late in January. So this is like a week, this is almost like 2.5, 3 weeks. But I will say, hasn't been great for us, here in Pat's house. It ended January on Bravo, made it to the conference finals, I guess, if you will, of the kitchen table Discord construction classic constructed league. Lost to a Prism player. I knew when it was happening that it wasn't going to last. So did that, and once February kicked off, I went back onto Katsu. Katsu's basically my main hero, and was getting ready for Everfest. Obviously we did the reviews. I had a good idea of what was happening. Looking forward to building Katsu. So before the official release, I put it into action. Won some, lost some, and then Everfest came around and built it up, and it's really been downhill from there. Hasn't been great for Katsu. So I've taken my lumps over the last 2 weeks or so, and I'll say this: I put Captain Planet together. We'll talk about that more. But I think Katsu's taken enough beatings for this meta and me. If a better player cracks the code, then I might jump back on. But until then, rode Katsu into the ground the last 3 weeks, and I'm gonna give him a rest moving forward. So our next Week in Fab update will probably be about a different hero. Adam, how about yours? How was your Week in Fab?
Ups and downs. Won some armories. Absolutely bombed in others. Probably the highlight was it was on Monday that I found out that I had cracked up into the top 13 of the 90-day global XP. And,
congratulations!
So that was kind of a cool little accomplishment. I have been working hard to try to.
No joke. That's what top anything is big. Top 13 is a lot of hard work. So congratulations, you've earned it.
Cool, thank you. Had that little accomplishment, but that was probably it. The other big one we'll touch on when we get into the news, because I don't want to.
All right. Well, moving on from the Week in Fab, I think it's time for the news. That's some high quality sound effects, I'll have you know. First things up on the news, a special little thing here. Couple personal friends of ours, Drew Cordell and Davis Kingsley, better known as Tower Number 9, were recently introduced as guest writers to LSS directly on the Fab TCG page. And these two are the first non-LSS employees to be featured in articles. LSS will be having guest writers throughout the ProQuest season talk about their experiences and their own personal unique perspectives in the game while the ProQuest season is happening. And obviously we're members of a testing group where Drew Cordell and Davis Kingsley are both members of it. And Tower Number 9 is famous for his analytics, and obviously he's helped that group out a lot. And Aaron Drew Cordell is known for his Guardian play, and he is definitely no slouch, and he has kicked my ass a few times in that testing group these days. And he's introduced his Captain Crunch variant, which is making strides in the meta as well. We won't get too much into that right now, but yeah. So that's go ahead.
I was gonna say all these different names for Starvo decks are starting to sound like different strains of marijuana, like Captain Crunch.
Yeah,
you're not
wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah, it's funny, and we're kind of. I think I'm a little numb at this point to it, right? It's like, all right, Captain Crunch, that's this one. Captain Planet, that's this one. These are deck variants. But if I brought up Starvo at the Everfest review video, and everyone's looking at me like I got 3 heads, and it's like, oh yeah, that's calling it for forever, and just the lingo leaking out there. Continuing on, James White interviewed recently. He had 2 different interviews. One with friend of the pod Matt Flake in the Instant Speed podcast. Matt Flake peppered him with some of the tougher questions James White's been asked in an interview, and James White did not hold back on his answers. Very, very honest. Touched a lot of topics. So I know some people weren't exactly happy with all of his answers, but he did answer those tough questions. And he also was interviewed in Business Magazine out of New Zealand, talked about a lot of things. Adam, I know you have a lot of details on both those things. Why don't you lay it on us?
Yeah, so for starters, found out that James White is a huge wrestling fan. Had no idea. So anybody who's trying to...
Are you a wrestling fan?
I am not in the slightest bit a wrestling fan.
You're not? All right.
Are you a wrestling fan?
I am a huge wrestler. I was very happy to hear James was a wrestling fan. He's a big fan of an era that I do not like. I was a big Attitude Era guy and into Ruthless Aggression, and then I was a big ECW guy. And nowadays, I catch a lot of the highlights online. Wrestling, WWE is unwatchable garbage. AEW is pretty good right now. That's how I feel. That's my hot take on wrestling.
Okay.
But yeah, happy James White is also a wrestling fan.
Yeah. And it sounds like there's a few guys in the LSS team that are wrestling fans, and might be more common amongst Flesh and Blood than we realize.
Mm-hmm. These, I don't want to call them nerdy pursuits, but, there's, once you like one thing like it, there's a lot of overlap into seemingly different industries, hobbies, and genres, much more than one might think initially.
Now, the real question is, how many hockey fans out there are there?
I come from Massachusetts. We won a Stanley Cup in 2008, and that is
okay.
Still the best playoff run I think I've ever seen. And I'm spoiled. I got 6 Super Bowl rings. All right, which I don't know. What do you got? Grey Cups.
Yeah,
I don't know how important the Grey Cup is to the country of Canada. Super Bowl is big. So I got 6 of those. I also got an NBA championship. I got a couple World Series. But that Stanley Cup run and Timmy Thomas in the net during that run, it's the best playoff hockey, best playoff run out of any team I've ever seen in any sport. Crazy. Nothing beats it.
That when he got the shutout in Game 7 to win it?
I believe so. He got the goalie award for the playoffs, which is very prestigious. Whatever it's called. What's it called?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. We're not that big. I'm not a huge hockey. Is like it's top 4 for me. So, but with the Bruins in the playoffs, playoff hockey is good.
That's fair. Playoff hockey is always good hockey. Yeah.
It is, especially when it's tight. No penalties. Give me like a 2-1 game that was exciting for 60 minutes. I'm good to go.
100%. But
so, as you were saying, James White likes wrestling.
Yes. Wow. Did we ever? Whew.
Just off the rails, just into the water, out of the bridge. Everyone's dead. Get back. Put the train back on the tracks.
The James White interview, we learned about him being a wrestling fan. He spilled some beans on some things we are getting coming up soon here. Now we know the next set we're not getting it actually till June, so we have a little bit to wait till that comes out. Mm-hmm. We did find out that we're getting another supplemental set before the end of the year. So another a crew 3, however you would say. And then if you've been paying attention on the product releases, there's also another release slated for Q2 of 2022. It's just been highlighted with 3 question marks up until this point. And James White kind of hinted that we're getting a starter deck as well, a new starter deck. And it's going to be like the way he described it, at least, was that it's going to be a beefed up version of the Ira starter deck. That's really all we know at this point, but still exciting to know that we're getting something that's going to be maybe a little more, like, don't get me wrong, the Blitz decks that they've printed for the last 2 core sets were fine. But something a little more like the Ira welcome deck, very niche, only playable against itself, but still a phenomenal deck to play and a very cheap deck to make. And so to see an expansion on that or something in that realm, I think would be really cool. Who knows what we get? Maybe we even see a new hero or some new equipment, or that'd actually be a perfect time to release a new hero. Right. That you can only get.
Who takes the place of Ira at that point, right? Introduce a new young hero that does something cool. That's an exciting prospect.
And in fact,
I hadn't thought about that right now.
That actually leads into the next thing. Another thing that James White teased was that we are also going to get to meet the first hero he ever made. We're finally going to get to meet the first hero he ever came up with this summer. So yeah, either in the next core set or in that starter set box, whatever we get there. Some cool stuff to look forward to.
Excellent. I am a fan of supplemental sets. I'm happy that more are coming. I think that's a great way to keep the non-rotating product fresh, right? Inject those little supplemental set
100%
into it. All right. After that, we got some news from LSS that they have updated their comprehensive rules. They've released a preview of the comprehensive rules 2.0, and that will come into effect March 14th. So we'll have new comprehensive rules for everyone to follow after 3.14. I do know as a Katsu main, one of my big worries is Find Center. The way that the comprehensive rules now read, equipment can now block Find Center, which kind of hurts my feelings, makes me big sad. So I have until the 14th to figure out the Viscera matchup. So, womp, womp, womp. But yeah, until then, they do have, I believe they call it the Comprehensive Rules 1.5 that are in effect now. But yeah, rules 2.0 comes into effect 314. Comprehensive rules are pretty dry to read, so I'm looking forward to a Cliff's Notes uh, version or some sort of companion text that tells me the updates, so I don't have to go digging too far into them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah. What do you think of 2.0? Is have you seen anything other? I found the the rule that affects Find Center, and I know that there's still some controversy about whether or not it's permanent, it's in place, whether or not we'll have this come through. But other than that, I haven't seen anybody say anything about 2.0, so it tells me for the most part it's a intuitive update that just makes the game make more sense and add a little more detail where there wasn't.
Yeah, and I guess because I know when Comprehensive Rules 1.0 came out, there was a lot of confusion, and it generated a lot of questions. In fact, it generated confusion to the point where there's a gentleman. Oh shoot. Don't know his name off the top of my head. He was a moderator for the main Flesh and Blood Discord, and kind of took upon himself to start reading through and modifying the comprehensive rules as needed to make them work. And he ended, interestingly enough, he ended up getting to the point where he actually got recruited by LSS to become the official rules advisor, and that's why I should know his name. I don't know if rules advisor is his title per se, but he's heavily involved with the rules at this point. And so knowing that all that as the backstory of Comprehensive Rules 2.0, I have high expectations for it. I also believe it's probably going to be a very good document. I don't think necessarily you need to read it front to back. It's probably just one of those things you can reference as needed over time. And especially if you already have a good idea of how the game works, it's probably something you just reference as needed and learn the game that way. I know maybe it is something, if I feel impassioned enough to do, I might read through at some point, but we'll see.
All right. Moving on, we have a whole slew of major tournament announcements. Now, this is a fairly detailed list, but not necessarily exhaustive, so I'll have that caveat added on initially. Since our last recording, several announcements. We have the Battle Hardened Philly, we're part of SCGCon, that took place this past weekend. At this point, yes. That was the 12th and 13th of February. So that is behind us, and we'll touch on the Battle Hardened Philly in just a moment. Also coming up is Battle Hardened UK. This takes place in Leeds. The Royal Armoury Museum in Leeds, hosted by Living Realms. It is a Blitz constructed format Battle Hardened, and it is taking place Sunday, March 20th, 2022. That's going to be one of the first Battle Hardened events in Europe. Battle Hardened between Philly and the UK, and the other ones, Battle Hardens, give that upgraded PTI invite that is eligible. That makes you eligible for things like World Championships and Pro Tours. So exciting stuff coming up there. The Calling Indianapolis takes place the weekend of March 19th as part of SCGCon dates taking place in that location as well. Calling Indianapolis is a classic constructed format tournament We love callings. They're supposed to be something like 30 in 2022. So the first couple have been announced, and I'm looking forward to more. But that is the 18th through the 20th, Classic Constructed, as well as the Calling in Indianapolis, a Battle Hardened, and Day 2 is happening as well. Going down, the Calling Krakow, Poland was just recently announced. Steelfur of Steelfur Speaks, prolific UK Flesh and Blood player, helped announce that. That is taking place the weekend of April 15th through the 17th, and that is also a Blitz format tournament. Last but not least, the big one, the doozy, Pro Tour New Jersey has been in, and that is taking place May 13th through the 15th. And let's dive into Pro Tour New Jersey. Pro Tour New Jersey is special because we have ProQuest Season, and ProQuest Season has in-store ProQuest events where you get the PTI invite, where you are qualified specifically for Pro Tour New Jersey. So we're going to dive into it. It is taking place in the Meadowlands Expo Center in Secaucus, New Jersey, the weekend of the 13th. 13th through the 15th. The Friday Pro Tour begins. On Saturday, the Calling begins, and on Sunday, Battle Hardened begins. So you have 3 days, 3 different style tournaments all happening, but the main event, of course, being the Pro Tour there. Pro Tour New Jersey starts Friday, May 13th. Classic Constructed format, eligibility, invitation required, rules enforcement at the professional level. Let's talk eligibility. The Pro Tour is an invitation-only event. Players can qualify for the Pro Tour in the following ways. All right, and we'll just quickly read through all of this, and then we'll double back on these because we got some spicy stuff to talk about here. Obtaining invitation to Pro Tour New Jersey through an in-store ProQuest Season 1 event. Right, we're playtesting for ProQuest Season, so we can play these in-store events in hopes to get a Pro Tour invite to Pro Tour New Jersey. So we have 4 weeks of those ProQuest events taking place. Redeeming a PTI, professional tournament invitation, obtained from a previous event, such as the Calling. So if you top 8'd a Calling, what else would there have been for that kind of PTI?
Nationals.
Yep, Nationals, right? Calling a Nationals, you got a PTI invite, you can use it for Pro Tour New Jersey. A player may gift for redemption up to 1 PTI to another player per Pro Tour by emailing protour@fabtcg.com with your name and gem player ID. I won't get into the weeds too much in that one. The player gifting the PTI must send the email, yada, yada, yada. Please note that a gifted PTI must be used by the recipient to play at Pro Tour New Jersey. If the recipient does not attend Pro Tour New Jersey, the PTI will cease to exist. So, gifting PTIs is one thing. We're going to read through the rest and we'll double back. Ratings-based invitations will be awarded based on the official leaderboards as of 1 p.m. Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022 New Zealand time, as follows. Top 100 players global 90-day XP. Top 100 players lifetime XP. Ratings-based invites do not pass down and are valid only for Pro Tour New Jersey. Now, first, PTI being able to be gifted to another player. Adam, how do we feel about gifting PTIs?
I mean, if this is me, you and I have tested very hard, and we go to a bunch of events, and I managed to score 2 PTIs, and you don't score a single one, and we both are really intent on going to the ProQuest together, then I can gift you a PTI and we can both go. Yeah, I think that's great. I see nothing wrong with that. But that's not the reality. That's not how this is going to get used. This is going to be people's...
How much do I have to pay you, Adam, for the gift of the PTI?
And
what's your price?
That's exactly it. Is that the concern is not whether these are being gifted, it's that whether these are being sold off. And I know people have been speculating on how many PTIs are out there right now. There's more than people realize because there were events that happened before and throughout the early portions of COVID that people forget about. There's a guy by the name of Jason Long who alone has 4 PTIs to his name. So not to,
it does. It's definitely a slippery slope, right?
Yeah.
It's weird that they put it in there. It's weird that they didn't put restrictions on doing a payout for PTI. And it definitely has left kind of a sour taste in some people's mouth about the legitimacy of a Pro Tour event.
Yeah, for sure. Because now it brings up the whole element of, well, I worked hard to be here. This is supposed to be, as far as I view the Pro Tour, my Canadian perspective, this is the NHL of flesh and blood.
Of course it is.
This is, the NFL or MLB or NBA.
Much better.
If we have any European listeners, they're European football.
Yeah.
Hey,
world's most popular sport. I'm in the minority.
And you know what? There's something to be said about soccer too, as I call it. But anyway, I digress. This is supposed to be the best of the best for flesh and blood, and to think that someone just bought their way in, it doesn't feel good. For sure. At the end of the day, does that hurt does that hurt the people who earned their way in? Definitely not, because if somebody bought their way in and they didn't put the work in and they're not ready to be there, they're just going to get knocked out day one. They're done, and that's it anyway. So
yeah, that's a very good point, right? You can be, if you're a Joe Blow with money to spend and you decide that you want to buy PTI, right? And you find someone who agrees to do it. And then you say, all right, now I'm in Pro Tour, New Jersey. I need a deck. So you buy your deck, and that's all well and good. But if you have not put in the time, right? This game rewards familiarity and time on the mat, so to speak, with decks and going through the grind of play testing and learning, right? Learning your deck, learning the lines. If you think that you're going to come in just out of the blue, warm body and do anything in a Pro Tour style event, I think you are a bold person. I will say that. I don't think it's going to end well if that were the case. I also don't think that, right, this is a pretty niche game. I'm sure there's somebody out there that has put in the work but couldn't quite get there for one reason or another, and is willing to pay up for it. I don't see any of these going. I see maybe 1 or 2 of them going for free, but I'm sure there's going to be a cost to getting in there. And for this one, right, for the first one, you're trying to get your numbers up. You don't want to. You have these people with multiple PTI slots. It becomes one of those things where if this is how you're going to use your PTIs, then they have to have something, I think, more productive as a conversion of unused PTIs, like turn it into something useful to the person other than just collecting these absent invites that just become a investment vehicle or something like that.
Yeah.
Turn that into something a little better than what this is. So for the short term, okay. But long term, right, if the Pro Tour is the NHL, right, the professional league at the highest level of continued play, then they need to clean it up a little bit and make it act like that. Part of that, right, is introducing the pool of players that will be in that prestige league, right? Create your stories, create your characters, and allow them to become that pro league of flesh and blood. Which brings me to XP related invites. So, as we touched on at the beginning here, someone I know just cracked top 13 in Global 90 Day. So how about this? Do you think that you'll be able to maintain top 100 through March 23rd?
Well,
as of 1 p.m. Wednesday, March 23rd, New Zealand time?
As of March 23rd, we're February 18th right now, so just a little bit over a month. As of today, I'm number 20 on the 90 day, and I am number... Hang on, I had it up here. Number 49 on the lifetime.
Sounds pretty good. Both of them are pretty good.
I think I have it locked in. I'd be... you know what, 90 day could be volatile. You can grind pretty hard. I know there are those, like Kugani has that schedule where you can go and find all the international online events, and you know what, if you want to be a madman, grind 24/7. Do I think it's impossible to be knocked out of the 90 day? No. I think that would also involve me stopping playing altogether, which I'm not going to do, though I have taken a backseat a little bit this past week. Just due to scheduling conflicts, but through the next little bit, it looks like it's smooth sailing, so I should be able to play at a regular pace.
Do you think that those who do grind the online armories are exploiting the XP avenue for Pro Tour invites?
Well, I think it depends what you define as exploiting and what you define as grinding. I play on average, I try to play in an event per day, whether that be a local event or an online event. It's probably 50-50 right now. And could I play more? Yes. Have I played more in the past? Yes. Am I happy with the pace I'm maintaining right now? Yes. With the pace I'm maintaining once a day, am I exploiting? I don't know. Am I taking away from anybody else's ability to play? I don't believe so. Am I helping? I mean, to that aspect too, like within what I'm doing, whenever I encounter a new player, I try to be welcoming and, help show them what's going on and teach them and stuff. And within that, there are those people who, when they grind, they shark and they ask, people to scoop for them, and they ask, they take advantage of new players, and I'm not doing any of that. So there's so many angles to look at. It really becomes its own philosophical debate. And we don't have the time to get into it that degree, but based off of everything I just presented at you, what do you think? Where would you draw the line?
In terms of the XP, I think that, so I come from the online only style of play, right? I do not have locals around me to do this, so the online armory is my only avenue for an armory style event, and I suffer through randomized prize support because of that, and it rue the day. But in order to get to the top 100, obviously in lifetime XP, it is exponentially harder, and at this point, I think to move into lifetime XP is probably tied to these high level events at this point, right? People who can get into the Pro Tour are probably who are going to be cracking that. But the global 90-day XP, you have to play into these events and you have to win them. You have to win a significant amount of them too. So you have to display your skill. And at that point, you have to give the opportunity for someone who can only play online, the way to do to a way to get there and get entry into these things. Otherwise, why do you have XP in the first place, right? So obviously when you introduce something like this, there's going to be like a spectrum, right? There's going to be a low end casual armory once a week local new player, and there's going to be the upper tier of that where you get into COVID locked Asian countries who play 13 armories a week. And it just so happens, that's what they do, that's their lifestyle, that's how they play, and their XP shows it. And there's nothing anyone can really do about that, because at the end of the day, they play those games and they win those games. They're not doing anything they haven't been allowed to. I do believe, there's that moral code, right? I mean, as long as you're doing it legitimately, then all good. If there's any kind of chicanery, in terms of sharking or anything else like that, I think then you can make a case for excluding some people. But I'm good with this. I think this is one of those things as well. The top 100 players on the based on XP helps grow what that Pro Tour is going to be. It starts to introduce people into that Pro Tour roster and allows a greater variety of players in for the short term. So I am more supportive of XP based invites than I am of gifted invites.
Now,
and I think we'll yeah, go ahead.
Now I know. I know. Want to wrap up on this subject, but I know a lot of people are like, well, what about ELO? ELO is supposed to be the professional rank, whatever, and people have said, why didn't they use ELO instead of XP? And I think now there is the argument that XP is probably more legitimized than ELO is right now, because not enough people have had access to ELO. But right. I think it feels bad for the people who are at the top of the ELO boards and who have worked hard for that, and who I would expect that anybody who's at the top of an ELO board probably is also doing fairly well on XP. Or should have a fairly good shot at winning a ProQuest. But it's just something to point out and something to contemplate. I know one thing that I thought that they could have done maybe differently that could have made sense would have been awarding invites only to the top 100 lifetime XP, and then awarding the other 100 to ELO participants. Or, maybe to the top 190 day and to ELO participants or something like that, and balancing it out that way. But just another angle, a little bit of food for thought.
Well, there are, in terms of the ProQuests, is there 250 ProQuest season events across the world? Yes, there are over 250 ProQuest events. So in the hypothetical situation that every single one of those people won their ProQuests, and everyone was different, right? And then went to Pro Tour New Jersey, there's 250 potential players from ProQuest Season 1. Redeeming a PTI, I don't know how many people are there, but I do know that there's also 100 invited on Global 90 Day, and there's 100 invited on Lifetime, which brings it to at least 250, 350, 450. There's 450 plus high-level PTIs on there, which brings it to between 500 and 600 at that point. That is a lot of... I don't know what the average Pro Tour is supposed to look like, but they're asking 500 people to enter this event and be in this tournament. So it'll be definitely interesting to see how that comes through, how many people actually attend there. I don't think everyone who wins a PTI is going to get in there, just based on the logistics of getting to New Jersey from wherever you are with that time frame.
Yeah.
So, moving on to just the prize note. This is a Pro Tour, so just quickly through the prizing. Champion gets $25,000 USD, a Pro Tour champion prize card, which sounds spicy, and gold legendary of their Heroes class talent, and a PTI invite. Finalists $10,000, and down from there $6,500, $3,000, $1,500 for 9th through 16th, $750 for 13th through 32nd. Top 32 get a PTI. Top 8 get a gold foil legendary of their Heroes class and talent. And on top of all of that, I just want to note that the Calling New Jersey is giving away to the champion of the Calling New Jersey, which starts on Saturday, ends on Sunday. The last ever gold cold foil extended art Findel Spring Tunic is on the line at the Calling.
Fancy.
So I imagine, I'm curious to know if there's an avenue where you can be invited to the Pro Tour, play, scrub out day one, join the Calling, and get in there. But of course, if you scrub out on the Calling after that,
then
you can always play the
hardened.
Battle Hardened. Yep.
Oh, the triple scrub out special.
And the triple scrub out special ends with a World Championship invite. Who wins more at that point? All right, so that's what we got for the news. And now it's time for the main topic. Adam, what are we talking about this week?
We are talking about Everfest. Our first impressions, things we've noticed that have exceeded our expectations, things that haven't lived up to our expectations. Certainly, the meta is still very much developing. But we've been now, thankfully, through things like TTS mods, we've been able to play with some of these cards before they've even been released. I think people are starting to get an idea of what feels good, what works. And we wanted to take a look at that and see if we could break it down a bit for everyone listening.
Sure.
Now, I think a good place to start, we just had the Battle Hardened Philly recently. Pat, do you have the results handy there?
I do. I've got a top 8, top 4, and a winner. So let's dive into that. So the top 8 of the Battle Hardened Philly, it was the first classic constructed big time event hosted at SCG Con. It had in the top 8 5 Bravo Star of the Shows, aka Starvo, 2 Chains and 1 Briar, which is always fun to see. The top 4 of that was 3 Starvos and 1 Chain, and the winner was Charles Dunn on Bravo Star of the Show, and I believe he faced Chain in the finals of that tournament. But Bravo Star of the Show wins out at the Battle Hardened Philly, taking the world by storm. So I think you can't have any discussion about the new meta post Everfest without talking about Bravo Star of the Show, and I think 2 deck variants colloquially known as Captain Planet, Captain Crunch.
Bravo, Starvo, whatever you want to call him, is definitely a huge power going coming out of this Battle Hardened and going into the first week of ProQuest. I think
the first thing to note is that it turns out giving an attack action +2, dominate and go again, is a pretty good thing.
Yeah, crippling crush for 13, dominate, go again into some sort of hammer swing. Like that's
Oof.
Gross. And yeah, this hero has access to the biggest card pool of any hero in the game. And that alone means he can do some crazy things. Like he can do a lot of dynamic things, hence why we're seeing the different variations, Captain Crunch, Captain Planet, but the numbers are backing up what all these different decks can do. Like If you build the deck right and you play the deck right, that hero ability is quite powerful.
Right. And so the two variants that we're talking about here, so Captain Planet is called the more infamous one at this point, right? It was showcased for the first time on a stream tournament from Out of the Box Gaming in North Carolina, and it went 8-0. It was originated by a fellow named Matt W. And we may have gotten a bit of a preview of this deck in the weeks prior, so we had an idea that it might have been coming. But after we went 8-0 on stream, right, it went as viral as a
Cat was out the bag.
Blood. Yeah, Cat was out, right? It came out. The list itself was reverse engineered by a few high-profile players, Rob Seigel and Tariq Patel. Played it on Channel Fireball. The list itself was brought up on the main Flesh and Blood Discord. Like things, it happened, right?
Word gets around quickly.
Yeah, it does. Flesh and Blood is kind of notorious for that kind of thing too, right? Like we
are such a tight-knit network, and I love it.
It is, and it's this kind of thing happened with Briar when it came out as well. It came out. It turns out it does really well, and then everyone who could grabbed it, right? And Captain Planet, Starvo, coming out the battle hardened, showed up in pretty good numbers here, and it ends up it's really, really good. So I just wanted to touch on the variants just a little bit here. So Captain Planet is elemental based, and its focus is getting the reveal criteria met as often as possible. Right? It focuses on a ratio of earth, ice, and lightning cards, and less guardian specific cards, and tries to hit that reveal to give +2 dominate and go again multiple times per game. There is a more traditional feeling variant that wants to hit that maybe once or twice a game, but focuses on just being happy with the large card pool and fantastic equipment suite. So those are your two main variants. I think you're going to see those basically for the rest of the meta being tuned up to face whatever comes their way.
And I'm sure we're going to see other variants as well.
There's too many cards. I want the lightning build. I want entwined lightning surges. I want everything.
I'm sure that build exists, and I'm sure there is a Captain Ice build, and
Captain Ice. All right.
Or Mr. Freeze, like Mr. Freeze or whatever.
Yes, there we go.
I wanted to stick with the captain theme that's so far, but Mr. Freeze, would. Maybe that's something we should be working on. I don't know.
The branding
and the Flash.
The branding.
The Flash deck.
All right. Yep, I'll give you Flash. All right. I do have. So I talked in.
Is there a Captain America deck?
It's got to be. I've wanted one. I need
red, white, and blue.
some.
What would be red, white, and blue about it?
I need someone who can throw a shield for damage before I can make.
Oh, that would be so cool.
That's what I need. The shield weapon is where I will go full Marvel on my Flesh and Blood deck building. Believe me, I have been. It has been churning ever since shields were introduced. I was like, it's only a matter of time. So there are other decks other than Starvo here. We do know that the meta is kind of surrounding, so maybe not so much represented in the top 8 of Battle Hardened, but we will touch on more of that top 8 and some of these other decks here as we go. But It does seem that like just before Battle Hardened, we'll call it the triad, kind of rose up. Right, there's three main heroes that seem to be what you'd be considered tier one. Right, you'd have Viserai, Prism, and then Guardian in some form. Seem to be tier one. Is that track with you?
Yeah, I'd agree with that for the most part. I think maybe you could be a little broader to say you had Prism, you had Guardian, and you had Runeblade. Because yes, Viserai's been in the hot seat and in the spotlight lately, but Briar had a top 8 at in Philly, and so did Chain, and Chain especially. Briar as well, but Chain especially is not one to be counted out. I think he is a lot more powerful than people give him credit for. So, I can.
It does seem that Chain is once again making a comeback and emerging as another contender for a top meta deck. I do think it has some matchup deficiencies here and there, but
in the Seeds of Agony banning article, LSS even said so themselves. They still expect Chain to be a relevant presence in the meta, and it has been.
And it was.
And
right, that U.S. Nationals, right, was it was 2 Runeblades, but that a Chain made top 2 with Michael Fang, in Nationals, and Tariq Patel obviously won that with his Briar list. But that was one of those things where it's like, hey, here's Chain, climbing the leaderboards and making top cuts and showing up in the finals of another high profile tournament. And this is I feel like one of the few ones that Prism hasn't shown up, especially recently. Prism seems to be kind of disrespected a little bit, but then shows up to these high-level tournaments and clears house. And this Battle Hardened event is kind of the first one where Prism hasn't been well represented in the top 8.
Yeah, and Prism, I'm more so on the more and more on the fence. Prism used to have a really good matchup into didn't have a great matchup into Briar, but did have a good matchup into Viserai, which the Prism Viserai matchup has grown easier for Viserai. Briar, I'm not certain about right now. Chain is still fatigable, but if you're building just for chain fatigue, that makes you weaker in other ways. So Prism might, don't get me wrong, there's some good things going on there, but I don't know that Prism's going to be the powerhouse people initially thought she might be.
Don't anger the Prism players.
I am a Prism player. I want her to be good. I want her to be the best deck, like, just because that'd be so much fun. But yeah, that's just the reality of it. And I mean, as far as being a kitchen table player or a casual player, yeah, Prism's fine. Pick up Prism, jam her out, and you'll have fun. But as far as like competitive, like what are we taking to Pro Tour? Yeah, I don't know if it's Prism right now.
Yeah. I will say the commonality I see between the top decks here is versatility and equipment. I think Starvo having the deep equipment and Runeblade having the deep equipment, I think, makes all the difference in the world. And
yes,
I think is one of the major factors there. Real quick, ProQuest Week 1 coming up right now. If you gun to your head, you're going tomorrow. Who are you bringing?
You know what? Up until so,
your powers combined, I am Captain Planet.
I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that is a consideration. I'm between Captain Planet, Viserai, and Chain, I think.
You know what? Same. But if I were going tomorrow, I would bring Captain Planet.
Okay, yeah, you know what? If I was going tomorrow, Captain Planet's probably a good bet. I don't think the meta's ready for him yet. I think he's beatable, but I just don't think people are quite ready for it yet. Unfortunately, I'm not going tomorrow. I'm not even going next week. I'm going like in March. So
Yeah. I got 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now. So I am dialed in. I'm looking. I'll have an opportunity to make a decision and then pivot before it goes on. All right, real quick before we move on, is there any hero out there that people aren't talking about that you think has more of a chance than people might realize?
Are people talking about Dash? I mean, I know people who are tinkering around with Dash, but is in the grand spectrum, are we looking at Dash? Because Dash, if Starvo is dominating the meta, Dash might be a good counter there.
Dash.
I wonder if Ice Lexi, something that can tax and disrupt. That could be good, or just Ice in general. I'm wondering even Ice Bravo, Ice Starvo, I should say.
Word right there that you brought up, right? Disruption, right? What can disrupt these super powerful, super swingy
like in Ranger, Chilling Ice Vein is such a good disruption card. Because if typically somebody's
Azalea,
going
right?
Well, Azalea,
Dreadbore.
You know what?
Pummel the battering bolt.
Play a tri-shot, play a 3 of a kind, go ham.
We cracked the code. We did it. Who's building Azalea for ProQuest?
I'm not.
Level up.
All right. So it is time for a level up moment of the week. And this week we are talking card evaluations. Adam, tell me a little bit about evaluating cards in Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, I think with the new set coming out, I think this is, or the supplementary set coming out, I think this is a great topic to dip into. Kind of help you get an idea on how good a card is and how usable a card is. I know sometimes it can be information overload, and not knowing where to start can be quite daunting to some players. A few things right off the bat. I like to list out, there's a few fundamentals that LSS follows when they design their cards. And you'll notice that now, for the most part, a card will either block for 3 or block for 2. However, if it's an instant, it won't block at all. There are some brute cards that don't block as well either. Then beyond that, there's a damage matrix. Typically at red, we see 0 for 4, 1 for 5, 2 for 6, and so on. These things right away are ways that you can kind of start to evaluate a card and try to figure out if it's good or not. Because if you're looking at an attack, let's say we look at something very iconic. I know this is kind of an easy one, but I think it's still a really good one to break down, because understanding why this card is good is a great way to then understand what can make other cards good. Command and Conquer. Command and Conquer, for starters, is a generic. So it is playable in every single class. That's pretty good. Then if we look at the defense value, well, it blocks for 3. That right away is way better than anything that blocks for 2. You might think 2 to 3 isn't much, but when you look at the spectrum of 4 cards, if each card blocks for 2 versus each card blocks for 3, that's 4 extra points of damage. So 3 makes a big difference. Then beyond that, it's 2 resources for 6 damage. 2 for 6. That is a very standard rate of damage. So just without anything else, a red 2 for 6 blocks for 3 sounds not bad. If I need that if I needed that in my deck because I don't have anything else, I'm happy to run it. So now we look at the text on it. We look at what it does. It does two amazing things. A, you can't play defense reactions to it, and B, if it hits, it destroys all cards in arsenal. Wow. Like, that is what blows that card out of the water and what makes it as strong as it is. But breaking it down and looking at all the different things it does helps you understand why, when all the pieces comes together, it's as strong as it is. So then we can look at a card like...
Let me throw something at you.
Sure, yeah.
Why... You know what card I love? I love playing Scar for Scar. Right? Scar for Scar red, attacks for 4, costs 0, blocks for 2. Gains go again if your life is below your opponent's. Why don't people play Scar for Scar blue?
Because it sucks.
Yes, it does. What makes it suck?
Well, you know what? I don't even think I've ever looked at a Scar for a Scar blue. I'm trying to think what it comes in for. It blocks for 2, attacks for 2,
and it attacks for 2. Yep.
You know what? Okay, so here's the thing is, and this is where, and this falls into part of card evaluation. This is a more situational thing. Depending on the deck, in a pinch, it's not the worst card. Like, if you're looking at a Kodachi-based ninja deck, if you were playing sealed, it's a great resource card all of a sudden, because it's a 0 pitch, it's a 0 discard, and...
Sure.
That
you're selling me on blue Scar for Scar. I didn't think this is where this would go.
but just like that is the absolutely only the only place where you would play it. Like, would I play blue Scar for a Scar in Guardian? Oh yeah, it's a blue, sure, but like right off the bat, Guardian wants 3 blocks, and this is a 2 block. This is terrible in Guardian. On top of that, this doesn't trigger an Othos. It doesn't trigger... There's so many things this doesn't trigger. So... And I think that is a piece of card evaluation, though. Is being... But it's a deeper piece of card evaluation, is the situational ability of... The ability to situationally evaluate. And that doesn't come overnight. Like, just like the first step is reading the card, and it's funny because that sounds so pedantic. Even like, read the card. Like, of course that's what you're supposed to do, but when you actually take the time to read it and to contemplate it and go, okay, what does this do? What does this pitch for? What does this defend for? What does this attack for? Oh, this doesn't attack. Okay, what does it do then? It's a non-attack action. It's an instant. It's an attack reaction. It's a defense reaction. Like, once you start to take the time to just contemplate and even let those ideas simmer a bit, that can do so much to help with your card evaluation. But you need to know what to look for and what to read, and that's where having those understanding of things like the card, the damage matrix and how LSS balances cards helps you decipher and cipher through that information and figure out what is potentially good and what possibly isn't.
Definitely, and I think we can apply these evaluations into our deck building, right? So as we're looking at these cards and you talking about their situational usefulness, we start to examine things like, in general, especially when you're breaking down a card's worth in a deck. If I bring up the Scar for Scar example. We know that Flesh and Blood is a tempo-based game, but that tempo is represented in a slightly different way than perhaps other types of games. So I bring up the blue Scar for Scar, right? So it costs 0 and it attacks for 2. And when you attack with that one card, right, you've spent one card from your deck in order to, you've done it, right? You placed it down, you've done the thing. They can block, right, with one single card, and tempo hasn't. Everything's balanced, right? You've attacked with one, they've blocked with one. Everything's great. If you take the red Scar for Scar, now it attacks for 4, right? What is the maximum that a single action card can block for? Right, it's 3, right? Which means that the Scar for Scar attacking for 4 demands. In additional, if you need to block completely, it demands an additional card from your opponent. If you accumulate that kind of specific pressure for your one card, every one of their 2, you are maintaining a tempo advantage throughout the game, right? And part of this dance we do in Flesh and Blood is trying to figure out how our decks can find those critical ways to gain tempo. But as we go into kind of the specifics on those things, one of the things that we're looking at, of course, is hero specific abilities, right? So and usefulness. So we talk about blue pitch. Where is blue pitch used? Where is it found to be most useful, right? So we bring up things like Bravo and Wizard, who live and die off of blue pitch, right? Bravo because the cost of their big attacks are just so high, and Wizard because they Kano's ability is 3 resources, right? It's 3 resources, right? I don't know if I've ever looked at Kano's.
Yes, Kano's ability is 3 resources.
Right. Wizard player, tell me more. But yeah, so they, both of those characters utilize blue in very different ways. At that, right? So Bravo cares that attacks that cards cost 3 or more to play, and it matters that they're blue because it needs to be able to pay for what he wants to do. And if we look at something like Prism, with Luminaris in play, cards with yellow pitch become super relevant to them. So when you're making an evaluation if this card would be best in this deck, if you take Prism's yellow pitch example, you're putting a premium now on the red and blue slots because your main deck runs around yellows, right? So are you going to give up a yellow slot for another red? That's a decision that you have to make in those cards when you're evaluating that card in a hero-specific sense. Things like that come up. Flesh and Blood is also one of the card games where I think ratio, the talk of ratio and numbers comes into play. And I bring up Katsu as an example. Katsu wants a blue pitch in hand every turn, right? But it only wants 1. Everything else should be a threat. So how do we get there? We talk about ratios. We try to get to a 60 card minimum deck. Not every hero wants to be 60 cards. That's a level up for another day. But if we talk 60 card decks, what are the odds of getting 1 blue card in that deck, right? You want it to draw 1 in 4 cards, and it's 25% chance, and a 60 card deck is 15 of those cards, right? If you put it in one of those calculator tumblers, you want whatever would give you a 25% chance of drawing that card, or a 1 in 4 chance. So looking at those ratios becomes super relevant. And so we bring up Katsu wants the 1 blue pitch. That means 15 blue pitches if you want to assure yourself based on the odds that something like that is going to happen. And yeah, we can go into the rabbit hole for a lot of different things, but I think that's a good spot to end the level up moment for this week.
No, I think the takeaways on my end are just understanding the damage matrix, understanding how the cards are balanced, and then using that as the basis to kind of start your evaluation, and then reading. I can't stress it enough, like reading the card.
And I would some recommended watching in terms of card evaluation, not to plug other things more than as is go again gaming, but Team Covenant has a Fab Foundation series, and one of their first episodes, I don't know if it's one or two, they talk about tempo in Flesh and Blood, and they talk about the card matrix, and they go like 2.5 hours into why 3 block matters, and it's in other things, but it's a very good watch to understand in really super in depth about that, about what we're talking about here. So I recommend giving it a watch to you people talking about level up by watching Flesh and Blood content.
God, I mean, we're even constantly leveling up ourselves, so.
Oh yeah, right. It happens all the time. One of those. Yeah, I mean, every time we play a game, we take away something from a win or a loss like that, and we become better players. That's the name of the game, right?
Yep.
Put in the reps, and that's where all this comes with time, right? You don't need to be an expert on any one of these things here, but as you play the game and get familiar with it, these concepts, even if you didn't if you didn't put a name on it, like the damage matrix, you get a sense for it, and it starts becoming something that you understand, right? You start speaking the language, and those things, you start to pick those things up.
Yep. Yep, 100%. But I think that brings us into the end of episode 9 of the Combat Chain podcast.
Oh yeah, did we do it?
We did
We're
it.
Almost. We did it.
Are we jinxing it? I hope not.
Oh God.
I hope
Crash.
not.
Well, if it crashes on my end, nothing happens.
No, everything we're looking good so far. I think it's smooth sailing. I see clear skies as we head on into the end of the podcast. As always, we are on all major media platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you consume podcasts. We are also on YouTube, and in fact, on the topic of YouTube, we will be having a gameplay video going up shortly. Something a little different than what I think a lot of other people have showcased. So excited for everyone to see that. And if you can take the time to like and subscribe on our YouTube, we're doing a little subscriber giveaway right now to get to 100 subscribers. Say that 5 times fast. And when we get to that 100 mark, we're going to be giving away some BCW sleeves, some Gamegenic deck boxes, and a cold foil data doll. So like and subscribe. That's how you get into that. Pat, anything else?
You can find our Patreon at the link below. We are the Combat Chain on Patreon. A little hard to search for, but I believe we'll have the link there. We're young and up and coming channel and podcast, and any support is appreciated. Especially to help offset the cost of doing this kind of content, and as we're growing here, we'll be looking to dive into more features on Patreon, and expanding that presence, and making the bang for your buck worth it. But we do obviously support we appreciate any support that you can give us, and shameless plug, give us money on the Patreon.
Yeah, and you can also find us on Twitter.
That's right. Love the Twitter birds.
We are at the Combat Chain, and then I am at Bomb Toolery TCG, and Pat is at Pat Smash Good.
That's right.
And I think that it for the shameless plugging.
I think so.
All right. Well, with that, until next week, we're closing the combat chain.
On 3 or after 3? What do you want?